Some women just aren't meant to be mothers. The words drifted in from the living room, soft but sharp, like a blade wrapped in velvet. Maybe it's time we stop pretending. I froze at the top of the stairs, my hand gripping the railing to steady myself. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but those words hit me square in the chest. "Mom, please," Jordan said, his voice low but strained. "We're doing everything we can. The doctors." It's been almost 2 years, Jordan. 2 years of shots, pills, and calendars. Nothing's changed. The pause in her voice was heavy. "I hate watching you waste your life on something that clearly isn't meant to be." My breath caught. I backed away slowly, heart pounding. The mug I'd come to retrieve from the kitchen was forgotten. I turned and slipped quietly back to the guest room. "My name is Celeste Monroe. I'm 39 years old and a contract manager at Horizon Tech in Austin, Texas. For the past 2 years, I've been navigating the brutal terrain of fertility treatments, timed intercourse, hormone injections, specialist appointments, and quiet heartbreak month after month. Every negative test feels like mourning a child who never existed. Jordan and I always knew we wanted a family, but life didn't make room for that dream until later. We'd built our careers, paid off debt, bought a house. We thought we were ready. But readiness doesn't guarantee results. The doctors call our case unexplained infertility. No answers, just hope and patience. Jordan's mother, Karen, moved in last spring after selling her home in Denver. It was meant to be a short stay while she transitioned, but nearly a year later, she was still here. And somewhere along the line, she'd made herself the third wheel in our most intimate struggle. "I'm just trying to help," she'd say as she reorganized my pill boxes, nudged my reminders, hovered at my appointments. At first, I accepted it. I was desperate for support, for a baby, for her approval. But lately, her help had started to feel more like interference. I sat on the edge of the bed, my thoughts spinning. Had Karen been saying these things to Jordan all along? Did he secretly agree with her? Then, I remembered something strange. That morning, while taking my daily pills, I'd noticed they looked off. Slightly bigger. A different coating. I'd chalked it up to a generic refill. But now, suspicion slithered into my mind. I grabbed my phone and searched images of my usual medication. The ones I took this morning didn't match. A cold weight settled in my stomach. I opened my pharmacy app. My refill should have been picked up 3 weeks ago, but I hadn't done it. Karen had offered to grab it to be helpful. Was it possible she'd replaced them? I wanted to believe it wasn't. But in that moment, doubt cracked something inside me. Jordan and I met in the records office at City Hall. He was writing a feature for the paper. I was filing permits for my company. He asked for help. I gave him directions and my number. A year later, we were married in a quiet ceremony in his mom's backyard. Karen had seemed warm back then, thoughtful, welcoming. But there were signs. Passive comments about Jordan's ex who'd gone to med school, backhanded praise about my steady little job. I didn't want to see it then, but I see it now. When Jordan and I announced our plans to start a family, Karen's interest sharpened overnight. Suddenly, I was getting text messages with links to articles about declining fertility after 35 and the risks of geriatric pregnancies. She reminisced, often and loudly, about how she'd conceived Jordan at 23 without even trying. Soon, she began dropping by unannounced. More often than not, her unexpected visits aligned perfectly with the small windows when Jordan and I were trying to conceive. Despite these tensions, I never thought of her as an enemy. I saw her as a mother who loved her son, perhaps a little too much. I believed that once we had a baby, all that intensity would be channeled into her grandchild. I truly wanted us to have a better relationship. When Karen sold her house and needed a temporary place to stay, I was the one who suggested she move in with us. Jordan hesitated, but I insisted. It felt like the right gesture, a way to prove I wasn't the career-obsessed daughter-in-law she silently resented. Maybe if she saw me as more than just a job title, she'd accept me fully. Her presence changed everything. She took over the kitchen immediately, preparing grand meals with little regard for my dietary restrictions. She rearranged the living room furniture without asking. She hung up framed cross-stitch sayings I'd never seen before. And, most significantly, she began managing my fertility treatments. At first, it seemed harmless, thoughtful, even. She offered to pick up my prescriptions when she was already out, set up a brightly colored pill organizer on the counter, and gently reminded me about dosages. I interpreted her involvement as support, as acceptance. I was wrong. Looking back, there were warning signs. Times when I was certain I had more pills left in a bottle. Days when the pills looked slightly different, more matte, slightly off-white, but I brushed it off. Maybe it was the lighting. Maybe it was just my imagination. I'd even noticed something unsettling in Karen's expression when I'd tell her my period had arrived. It looked like sympathy, but felt like satisfaction. There were strange patterns, too. Whenever Karen visited her sister in Waco for the weekend, I'd feel different, more energized, more in tune with the hormonal shifts I'd come to recognize. When she returned, those sensations vanished. I dismissed it all as stress-related. A coincidence. But now it didn't feel like coincidence at all. That evening, while Karen was immersed in one of her crime dramas, I retrieved the pill organizer. In the bathroom, I examined its contents under the harsh vanity light. The pills looked close to my usual ones, white, round, roughly the same size. But they were off. No manufacturer's imprint. Smoother edges. I dropped one in a glass of water. It dissolved instantly. They weren't fertility meds. They looked like sugar pills. I flushed them, my hands shaking, my breath coming in shallow bursts. How long had this been happening? And why? As I heard Jordan's key in the door, I tried to calm myself. I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof. Over dinner, I watched Karen with a new awareness. She served Jordan an extra helping of roast chicken while placing a noticeably smaller piece on my plate. I can drive you to your appointment next week, she offered, smiling sweetly. Downtown parking is awful. That's kind, but I've got it, I replied, matching her smile with one of my own. My office is just a few blocks away. Still, it must be so stressful. Going to all these appointments, month after month, with no results. Karen's voice trailed off with a theatrical sigh. Her tone was sympathetic, but there was a gleam in her eyes that made my skin crawl. Have they suggested any alternatives yet? Alternatives? I repeated. Well, she said sweetly, reaching over to pat Jordan's hand, adoption, or perhaps a surrogate, maybe even a younger egg donor. There are so many options for building a family these days. Jordan shifted in his seat, staring down at his plate like it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. He didn't look at me. He didn't speak up. His silence echoed louder than anything his mother had said. The doctors are still optimistic, I replied carefully, fighting to keep my tone even. Sometimes these treatments take time. 2 years is more than time, dear, Karen said, smiling tightly. It's a message. That night, I lay wide awake while Jordan snored softly beside me. My thoughts churned. Finally, I got up and crept into the bathroom, turning on the light and beginning a quiet, methodical search. At the back of the drawer beneath Karen's toiletries, wedged behind a bottle of rose-scented bath oil, I found it, a prescription bottle with my name on it. My real fertility medication. The label showed it had been filled just 3 weeks ago. But the bottle was nearly full. My stomach dropped. She'd been intercepting my prescriptions, replacing them with sugar pills, all while claiming to support me, guide me, love me. I stared at the bottle in my hand, the cold plastic vibrating with the rage building inside me. Then I returned it exactly where I'd found it and crept back to bed. My mind was spinning. For 2 years, I had blamed myself. I'd cried into my pillow every month, wondering what was wrong with me. I'd endured hormone injections, invasive ultrasounds, mood swings, the loss of hope again and again. And the whole time, someone I trusted had been deliberately stopping me from succeeding. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to be smart. I needed to know, was Jordan part of this? Or just as blind as I had been? The next morning at work, I called my doctor's office and requested an immediate appointment, using medication concerns as my reason. I kept it vague, just enough to get seen during my lunch break. Dr. Patel greeted me warmly as always. Celeste, this is a surprise. Is everything okay? I stepped into her office and closed the door. I think someone's been tampering with my medication, I said quietly, replacing it with sugar pills. Her expression shifted from confusion to alarm. I showed her photos I'd taken of the pills from the organizer at home. She compared them with a sample from her cabinet. These definitely aren't what I prescribed, she said gravely. I can't say for sure what they are without testing, but I agree something's wrong. When she asked who had access, I hesitated, then explained Karen's involvement. Dr. Patel looked disturbed. Celeste, tampering with medication is a criminal offense. It's a form of medical assault. I know, I whispered, but I need more proof. And I need to find out if Jordan knows. She nodded and wrote me a new prescription. Only you can pick this up, she said. Keep it secure. And please, think about seeing a therapist. This is a serious violation of trust. I walked out of her office with the prescription in hand, feeling like my world had tilted. My worst fears were real, and now it was time to take control. The paranoia I'd felt for so long wasn't paranoia at all, it was reality. But confirmation didn't bring relief. It brought new dilemmas. Should I confront Karen immediately? Tell Jordan? Go to the police? I decided none of those options would serve me, not yet. Instead, I filled the new prescription at a different pharmacy, one across town, and kept the medication hidden in my locked desk drawer at work. That evening, I went home and pretended everything was normal. I let Karen watch me swallow one of her sugar pills, offering her the same polite smile she'd always given me. She looked pleased, smug even. It took everything in me not to scream. For the next 2 weeks, I took my real medication during my lunch breaks at the office while maintaining the performance at home. I documented everything, photos of the fake pills, timestamps of when Karen reminded me to take them, a video of the hidden prescription bottle I'd found in her toiletries. I created a digital file, encrypted and backed up to cloud storage. There would be no way for her to destroy the evidence if she caught on. What I didn't do was confide in Jordan. His silence during Karen's pointed comments, his lack of defense, it made me doubt where he truly stood. Was he just oblivious, or was he part of this? I got my answer 3 weeks later. I was walking past Jordan's home office when I heard raised voices. I stopped, heart thudding. This has gone on long enough, Jordan said, his tone firmer than I'd ever heard. I talked to Dr. Patel today. Celeste has been following the treatment plan perfectly. There's no reason it shouldn't be working. My heart lifted for a moment. He was defending me. But then came Karen's response. Unless the issue isn't the treatment, she said coolly. Have you considered the possibility that she doesn't actually want children? Maybe she's secretly taking birth control. Jordan's voice wavered. That's ridiculous. Is it? Karen pressed. She works late. She's always on her phone. For all you know, she could be living a completely different life. Celeste wouldn't do that, he said, but his conviction was already fading. Wouldn't she? Her voice lowered. I found this in her purse yesterday. There was a pause. Then Jordan spoke again, his voice filled with disbelief. A birth control packet? Are you sure? Check the prescription label, Karen said. It's hers. My blood went cold. She hadn't just sabotaged my medication. She was planting false evidence. And Jordan, the man I thought would stand beside me through anything, sounded like he was teetering on the edge of belief. That night, he confronted me in our bedroom. His expression was a mixture of confusion, betrayal, and pain. In his hand, he held the birth control pack. Is there something you want to tell me? He asked quietly. I stared at it. It looked real. Same pharmacy. Same label format. She'd gone to meticulous lengths. That's not mine, I said, my voice steady. I've never seen that before. It has your name on it, he said, his voice cracking. Mom found it in your purse. You believe her? I asked, stunned. She rifled through my personal things, planted this, and you just believe her? Jordan faltered. I don't know what to believe anymore, Celeste. 2 years of trying. No results. No answers. You think I'm the reason we haven't conceived? That I'd fake all this? The appointments? The shots? The heartbreak every month? I don't know, he whispered. Maybe you changed your mind. People do. The irony was cruel. While I had been uncovering Karen's betrayal, she had been crafting a new story, one where I was the villain, and she was the vigilant mother protecting her son. And Jordan, he was falling for it. Everything in Jordan's eyes said he was ready to believe the worst. Jordan, look at me, I said, my voice trembling despite my effort to stay calm. I have never taken birth control behind your back. I want a child, our child, more than anything. He stared at me, searching my face for something. Truth, maybe. Or guilt. Then how do you explain this? He asked, holding up the pill packet like it was evidence in a courtroom. In that moment, I knew I couldn't tell him everything, not yet. If I accused Karen now, if Jordan went to her demanding answers, she'd cover her tracks. She might even destroy the proof I'd spent weeks collecting. I can't explain it, I said slowly. But I swear to you, it's not mine. Someone is trying to come between us. Jordan ran his hands through his hair, pacing in tight circles. This is insane. Why would anyone do that? Think about it, I said, stepping closer. Who gains if you and I start doubting each other? Who's been in our house every day, watching our routine, inserting herself into the most intimate parts of our lives? His expression darkened. Don't start blaming my mom. She's been nothing but supportive. Has she? I challenged. Or has she been undermining me from the very beginning? The comments about my job, my age, the way she talks about your exes like they're still in the picture. She's old-fashioned. That's just who she is, he said defensively. She wants what's best for me. And she doesn't think that's me, I said softly. A knock interrupted us. Karen stood in the doorway, her face a study in feigned concern. I couldn't help overhearing, she said, her voice gentle, regretful. I'm so sorry this is happening, but maybe it's good that everything's finally out in the open. I nearly laughed at the performance. Nothing is out in the open, I snapped. You planted that pill packet. Karen blinked, wide-eyed, the picture of a wounded victim. Why would I do that? She asked sweetly. Jordan, can you believe what she's accusing me of? He looked between us, torn. But I saw it then, how deeply she'd twisted her claws into him over the years. He didn't know who to trust anymore. I think we all need some space, he said finally. Celeste, maybe you should stay with a friend for a few days. Just until we figure this out. And just like that, I was being exiled from my own home. Karen had won. I packed a bag with shaking hands, numb from the betrayal. This wasn't about fertility anymore. This was about survival. This was war. I checked into a hotel that night, heartbroken but clear-eyed. The next morning, I called in sick and went straight to Dr. Patel. I requested a full workup, blood tests included, to detect any trace of birth control in my system. As the nurse drew my blood, Dr. Patel asked gently, Celeste, have you considered the possibility that your husband might be involved in this? I had. In the long hours of the night, I'd asked myself that over and over. I think he's being manipulated, I said. Karen's always had a grip on him. But even so, the fact that he could believe this, it scares me. Dr. Patel nodded gravely. It should. But I wasn't giving up, not yet. Not until I had answers. The blood test results would come in soon. And with them, the truth. The results came back 2 days later, no trace of birth control hormones in my system. It was the confirmation I needed. Armed with hard medical evidence, I decided it was time to retrieve the real fertility medication I had discovered in Karen's drawer. If I could present both the blood test results and the swapped-out pills, maybe Jordan would finally see the truth. I waited until I was sure Jordan was at work. Karen's car wasn't in the driveway when I arrived, which I took as a lucky break. Using my own key, I slipped into the house quietly, my pulse pounding in my ears. I moved swiftly to the guest bathroom, opening the drawer where I'd found my actual prescription. It was empty. Panic crept in. I checked the cabinets, and under the sink, nothing. Karen had moved the evidence. I expanded the search to her bedroom, careful not to disturb anything. Dresser drawers, closet shelves, under the mattress, no luck. I was about to give up when I noticed her nightstand drawer was slightly ajar. Inside, nestled among hand cream and reading glasses, was a journal. I hesitated. This felt like a violation. But Karen had crossed every line imaginable. I opened it. Her slanted handwriting spilled across the pages in ink that fluctuated between careful and frantic. As I read, my stomach turned. Entry after entry confirmed everything. Karen had been replacing my medication for nearly 2 years, believing I was unworthy of giving Jordan a child. She was terrified I would trap him with a baby and had taken it upon herself to protect him from me. Worse, she'd been planting the idea of divorce, subtly, persistently positioning herself as the calm, rational mother simply looking out for her son's best interests. I photographed the most damning pages with my phone, then gently closed the journal and returned it exactly as I'd found it. Just as I stood to leave, I heard the front door creak open. "Hello? Is someone here?" Karen's voice rang out. Panic surged. The closet was too shallow, under the bed too exposed. The ensuite bathroom, just a few feet away, was my only option. I slipped inside and pulled the door almost shut. From the crack between the door and the frame, I watched Karen step into her bedroom, her eyes scanning the space like a hawk. She went straight to the nightstand, opened the drawer, and pulled out the journal. She flipped through it, her gaze sharp and assessing. Apparently satisfied, she locked the journal in the drawer and took the small silver key, looping it onto the chain around her neck. Then she grabbed her phone. "Jordan, it's Mom," she said, her voice honeyed. "You won't believe what I just found in Celeste's things. Printouts of sperm donor profiles. I think she was planning to get pregnant without telling you. It wouldn't have been your child." My heart slammed against my ribcage. Another lie. Another carefully planted deception. But this one? This one gave me leverage. Karen was heading straight to Jordan's office with this new evidence. As soon as I heard the door close, I emerged from hiding, already forming a plan. She'd shown me her playbook. Now I knew how to counter every move. 3 weeks later, she called a family meeting. Jordan had come home after a week away, apologetic, confused, shaken by the blood test results, but still caught between 2 versions of the truth. We were sleeping in separate rooms, living in limbo. Karen, sensing her grip slipping, escalated her campaign. She invited Jordan's siblings, their spouses, even a few family friends to what she called a discussion about Celeste's behavior. Karen described it as an intervention for Jordan's marriage. But I knew exactly what it was, an ambush. I'd seen it coming. The journal entries I had photographed made it crystal clear. Karen planned to publicly announce my supposed infertility as the reason Jordan should leave me. She wanted to cast herself as the concerned, heartbroken mother who only wanted her son to have the family he deserved. What she didn't know was that I'd been taking my actual fertility medication for over a month, retrieved from my secure drawer at work, monitored closely by my doctor. And just last week, I'd received news that would dismantle her entire narrative. The living room buzzed with low murmurs as Jordan's siblings and their partners filed in, exchanging glances that ranged from curious to concerned. Karen, ever the ringmaster, had arranged the seating so she was front and center, Jordan on one side, and me seated just slightly apart. Symbolic. Strategic. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice low and grave like she was announcing a terminal diagnosis. "I've asked you here because I'm deeply concerned about Jordan and Celeste's situation. After years of trying, it's clear Celeste can't give Jordan the family he's always dreamed of." Soft gasps rippled through the room. I could see Jordan stiffen beside her. "Some women just aren't meant to be mothers," Karen continued, her voice slick with false sympathy. "And while that's no one's fault, I believe it's time to face the truth. Jordan deserves a real chance at fatherhood before it's too late." She paused, savoring the silence. The moment. Certain she had won. I smiled gently and reached into my purse. "Oh, right," I said, my tone bright. "I almost forgot." I placed a large envelope on the coffee table in front of me. "I have something to share too." Karen's face drained of color as I pulled out the ultrasound printout and handed it to Jordan. He stared at it, blinking fast, mouth slightly open. Wait, are you?" he stammered. 10 weeks pregnant," I said, holding his gaze. "Dr. Boudreau confirmed it last week. We're having a baby, Jordan." The room exploded in confused congratulations. Karen, who had just declared me biologically obsolete, stared in disbelief as the ultrasound passed from hand to hand. When it reached her, she yanked it out of Jordan's brother's hand, squinting at it like she was looking for signs of Photoshop. "This is impossible," she hissed. "Actually, it's not," I said, my voice calm and razor-sharp. "Turns out, once I started taking the real medication instead of the sugar pills you were swapping, and conception happened pretty fast." Gasps. Silence. Karen's face twisted with panic. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "You're making things up." "Am I?" I turned to the rest of the room and opened my phone. I have photos of Karen's journal. Her own handwriting, admitting what she did. She replaced my medication. Created fake pill bottles. Planted false evidence to make Jordan believe I was sabotaging our chances. I handed the phone to Jordan. His eyes scanned the photos, and I saw his face fall, jaw tightening, eyebrows drawing together. "Mom," he whispered, "is this true?" Karen stood suddenly, knocking over a water glass. "This is all a lie. She's trying to turn you against me. She's always hated how close we are." But no one moved to comfort her. The room was silent except for the soft clicks of Jordan's siblings gathering their things, whispering their goodbyes, this time with coldness toward her and warm congratulations for me. As the last guest stepped out, Karen stood alone in the center of the living room, the wreckage of her scheme laid bare. "You should pack your things," Jordan said quietly. "You need to leave. I think it's time you found your own place to live." Jordan's voice was calm but resolute. Karen didn't argue. She looked from him to me, to the hand I had resting protectively over my belly, and for once, she said nothing. She gathered her things and walked out of our home. For the first time in years, I felt like the future I had dreamed of was finally within reach. 6 months later, our house felt entirely transformed. Karen had moved into a senior living community on the other side of Austin. Jordan visited occasionally, but only after she agreed to begin therapy, a condition he insisted on if she wanted any chance of reconciliation. So far, she had kept to her word. The spare bedroom that had once belonged to her was now a nursery. We painted the walls a soft sage green, added white bookshelves, and a cozy reading nook. Friends and family, many of whom had rallied around us after learning the truth, had filled the room with gifts, tiny onesies, plush toys, and heartfelt notes of support. Jordan and I had been attending couples counseling ever since that night. Rebuilding trust after such a betrayal wasn't easy. We had hard conversations about how quickly he doubted me, about the unhealthy dynamics he'd allowed with his mother, and about the new boundaries we needed to put in place. But each session helped stitch us back together, stronger than before, more intentional in our commitment. Dr. Boudreau continued to monitor my pregnancy closely, given the history. During my most recent appointment, she smiled warmly as she reviewed the ultrasound. "Everything looks perfect," she said, turning the screen toward me. After everything you've endured, Celeste, you deserve this joy. I had stayed at my job at the law firm, though I was planning to take a long maternity leave once the baby arrived. What I'd been through inspired me to propose a workplace initiative, supporting employees undergoing fertility treatment with flexible hours and access to confidential resources. To my surprise, the firm embraced it. But the deepest change was within me. The woman who once second-guessed herself, who swallowed someone else's narrative in silence, had been replaced by someone fierce. Someone who had stood up, gathered evidence, made a plan, and won. As I stood in the nursery, feeling my daughter's strong, steady kicks beneath my hand, I smiled. Some lessons come at a high price, and Karen had paid it in full. If you've made it this far, thank you. Truly. You've walked with me through betrayal, heartbreak, manipulation, and healing. I didn't share my story to dwell in the pain, but to show what's possible when you reclaim your voice, even when it's shaking. So now, I want to hear from you. What part of my journey resonated with your own? Have you ever been made to doubt yourself, to feel small, to question your truth? Leave me a comment. I read every single one, and your words matter. They remind me that I'm not alone, and neither are you. To every woman out there who's been gaslit, dismissed, or made to feel like she has to earn her place in someone else's life, you don't. You're already enough. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't silence that inner voice to keep the peace. Peace built on denial isn't peace at all. It's quiet suffering. Stand firm in your truth. Document it. Protect it. And when the time is right, speak it loud enough to reclaim your power. And finally, don't underestimate your strength. You're more capable than you know. The old me would have folded, cried quietly in the corner, and questioned whether I was the problem. The woman standing here now? She set boundaries, protected her future child, and exposed the lies meant to destroy her. So stand with me. Support women who are fighting unseen battles behind closed doors. Share this story if it moved you. Speak up when someone tries to rewrite your truth. And above all, believe in yourself, even when no one else does. We rise not by staying silent, but by telling our stories. I'm Celeste. And this is just the beginning.